Hey, and welcome back to this other Python tutorial. And here in particular we'll be looking at the code structure itself and how to write our code. Then you can go ahead and dive in deeper and deeper. And then in all the tutorials I'd like us to know where this whole tunnel leads us to. And so because I can see it takes a certain curvature here, so maybe there's the light at the end here, or maybe after I take this curve, maybe there's some other place, then you'll see the light. Don't know, actually think the light is actually here. So without wastage of time, let's just walk inside the channel and see where it will lead us. So here, like I said, we'll be looking at the code structure, and this is how we'll write our code. And so looking at the code structure, like basically most people might already think like we'll need words, and that is true. So we'll need words, and then we'll also need lines, and these lines are what will form the story, because you cannot write a story without the words and without the lines. And when you talk about the words, what I mean is you'll need something we call variables. Maybe you might get yourselves using some reserved words, or maybe we might pass some constants ourselves, and we'll look at what all these are. And this way you'll write a word and another word and another word, and this is meant to maybe do something. And then after that we can now take the words that we've learned, write a line, and then write another line and another line and another line. And then this will maybe ask for the user to input something and ask for some other input, add the input together, and then print out maybe a result. And then after that you can now create several lines and blocks of code that do something, and then other blocks of lines that do something also, and some other blocks just like that, and kind of get a certain flow that is a whole project. And even maybe at the end you might realize you've made your own software. So you can just play around with the code, because the code itself is not fixed, it's just waiting for you to tell it what to do. And so in this particular one we'll be looking at the word. And so when you talk about words, we have the constants, we have variables, and we have reserved words. So we'll look at this practically. And the constants, this is where we have a value that does not change. So if I tell Python print for me a 10 or maybe a 12, Python will not be like, okay, you told me to print 12, let me add my own values and multiply something and maybe divide something and then I'll give you the output. No, what it does is it gives you whatever value you give it. And for variables, this is a memory location where you're like, okay, so I want to name a certain memory location X and store a value, let's say 1, let's just use 1, and store value 1 inside. And so anytime I tell you to get me the value X, you just give me whatever is stored in here, and that will give us a 1. Then I'm writing it in this kind of manner. So for the reserved words, these I'll show you, these are a few words, not that many. And so what these are is, remember you said Python does not understand any English, but there is certain words Python was told, if that's actually something that can make sense. I don't know if it does, but Python was told that if someone tells you maybe print, they should mean I want you to output something, or maybe it's a letter you're outputting. Or if someone says let's say true with a capital T, it means that is a certain condition or value has been checked and is either true or false, so it has been found to be true. And you cannot give when you talk about variables and naming them, you cannot give a variable name or a memory. You cannot give a variable name as, let's say, print. That will give us an error in Python, because print itself is a reserved word that only means, and Python knows it only means output something. And so when you talk about constants, this is what we mean. Like if I was to tell Python print 16, it prints 16. If I tell it print JustG with the quotes, don't forget that, or you can use the double. Personally I like the single ones, and it won't change, the value won't change unless you change the code. And if you change the code, that just means you've given it a new constant, so the constant will still remain the same. And for variables, this is where you name a memory location, and you have the freedom to give it any name you want if you follow if you follow the rules as they are, because there are certain rules which are here, and it's if your variable name can be any word you want it to be, but it must start with either a letter or an underscore. So if you want to write, let's say, a variable to start with a number, it has to be first preceded by an underscore, then you can use a number as the beginning. Let's say you wanted to say 07, then you write some numbers here. You first have to start with an underscore, and the name can only contain letters, numbers, and underscores. There can't be anything more than that. And this is not actually a rule, but it's something I put here just for precautionary measures, because Python is case sensitive. So if you write the word plate like this, maybe say plate is something here is equal to, plate is equals to, let's say, variable naming, and you put the quotes. I don't know why I'm using this variable naming. And down here we come and tell it to print. We tell it print. Instead of using this plate, we use plate with a capital P, and then you tell it plate. Python will look and come here and read the code. When it gets to here, it will be like plate. What is this plate? Then it will blow up and give you a syntax error and tell you that is wrong. Plate, this kind of plate is not defined. So unless you pass it with a small p, then come and write here with a small p. If it's a capital P here, pass here with a capital P also. And then here are some of the reserved odds. And for the reserved odds, we are saying it's the meaning that does not change. Remember, for this it's the value, for this it's the meaning, and these are some of them. But you can look at the Python documentation in the link description below. So in the description below, so you can just check and see which words not to use and which words are reserved, because there may be a few more, and some of them I did not write them because you might not even get to use them. And just check them out. And then the last thing I'll look here is this thing we're calling the mnemonic naming of variables, and this is where we talk about giving like efficient names to our variables. Because let's say someone might come and say x t m n d 30 f is equals to 700. And even if you look at this, I don't know if it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to me. If somebody comes and says b is equals to 700, you'll be like, okay, this makes sense, but it's just okay, there's something called b and we're equating it to 700. But if I use mnemonic naming and come and say book and equate it to 700, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is a book. And maybe this is you'll maybe think, okay, this is either the price or maybe the number of books. If I was to use books, maybe you might think, okay, there are 700 books. If I was to, but you like give it a name, a variable name that maybe is more descriptive, and not to look at how actually naming these variables works. So let's assume this is a memory block. No, this is actually not right. Let me just so let's assume this is a memory block and it has several sections and they are all fine, and they are all equal. And then you come and say x is equal to 1, like we said in the example. And so what this does, just I want you to try and imagine, just draw an imaginary line here pointing towards this side where the variable is. And what this actually will help you with is to remember that this, we are taking 1 and putting it in x, and this x, we are saying x is a named memory location. So what Python does is it takes the x and looks for a memory location that is empty, and it looks and maybe finds this one, and then uses this one and labels it X and it calls it X. So anytime you're referring to X, you're referring to this memory location, and then it takes the one that you told it to put in X and stores it in that memory location. So it takes the value 1 and looks for that memory location. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's here, and places the 1 in here. So it's 1. And anytime you say, let's say I come here and tell it print out X, it will come and look for, it will come in all these memory locations and look for memory location named X, and it finds it. Oh, it's here. What's the value that is inside X? It's 1. So it comes out and prints out for you in the console or in your terminal or in your IDE. It prints out 1. And this is the same for the name and for the for any characters or any data structures that you've stored in there. It will just put them as they are stored in there, or according to how you tell them to be output. So with that, you can end the video, and you can go ahead and look at the code for today. So today the author does not change, still me, and we've been looking at intro to code structure, and you can go ahead and tell me how you can fix this and make it maybe a little bit more better and appealing, and maybe even make it look more beautiful, something like that. And so if you think the video is good, you can go ahead, drop a like. If you think it was awesome, just comment, leave a like, and you can also comment if you think like the video really did help. Comment, subscribe, leave a like, and if you think none of those worked, just leave a suggestion and I'll try and get to you. And also leave any question, if any questions you can give, you can drop them. And so just remember to keep on coding, and I'm out, so we'll check you in the next one. Have a nice day.